Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Continue to grow the station so we can keep pumping out that good content. I know this is primarily a Minnesota Vikings, Minnesota sports, Minnesota Timberwolves type station. But for those of you that know me, know that I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio, a little suburb called Warrensville Heights back in Cleveland. So I grew up a big Cleveland Brown fan. And so I know a lot of people have been hitting me up to talk about this whole Deshaun Watson situation. The Cleveland Browns fans cheering when Deshaun Watson got hurt the other day, popped his Achilles. So I'm really passionate when it comes to the city of Cleveland and the Cleveland Browns. So forgive me if I take a detour today, Skull Nation, Minnesota Viking fans. But I have to speak on this, man. I have to speak on the Cleveland fans getting killed in the media. They just getting blasted. People using the word classless and their low lives, and they shouldn't be cheering when Deshaun Watson got hurt. So a lot of my guys, a lot of my friends that still live back home in Cleveland wanted me to speak out on it on Unconventional Playbook. And I don't run from anything. I don't run from any news cycles, and I don't run from any challenges. You want me to speak out on Deshaun Watson and what happened in Cleveland? I'm going to speak out on Deshaun Watson and what happened in Cleveland. I ain't scared to speak out on it. First off, this is a message to the Cleveland Browns fans. Deshaun Watson popping his Achilles, and I know it wasn't all the fans in general, but it was a couple of knuckleheads. Every fan base has a couple of knuckleheads. We all know that. No matter where you go, especially in the NFL, you have a couple of knuckleheads in the fan base. And so for the Cleveland Browns fans, these portions of knuckleheads to be cheering, it's just a bad look for the Cleveland Browns fans. We're better than that. The Cleveland Browns fans are better than that. And let me be clear, I'm not condoning the Cleveland Browns fans for clapping, cheering, jeering, whatever you want to call it. I didn't watch the game. I stopped watching the Cleveland Browns games a long time ago. I put away my Cleveland Browns membership card. And again, I'm not condoning the cheering. You should never cheer for someone's demise, especially when it comes to a physical injury in the NFL. But here's what I will say to you, Cleveland Browns fans. I understand. The Cleveland Browns organization are soul suckers. The Cleveland Browns organizations will suck the soul and life out of your NFL spirit. They will suck the life out of your spirit. The Cleveland Browns fan base is one of the most passionate, loyal fan bases there is. I love the Cleveland. I love the city of Cleveland. I love the support the Browns get. I have fond memories of my dad and I going down to Municipal Stadium, going to those games in the cold, sitting in the bleachers before the dog pound was the dog pound. I remember Brian Sipe, and I remember Kevin Mack. I remember Reggie Rucker and Ernest Biner, Webster Slaughter, Reggie Langhorne, Brian Brennan, Bernie Kosar, Clay Matthews. I remember all the Cleveland Brown greats. I remember Marty Schottenheimer, Sam Ritigliano. So when it comes to this franchise, the Cleveland Browns, I know what I'm talking about. The 1980s with the Cardiac Kids, the late 80s with Bernie Kosar and the crew. I remember the drive. I remember the fumble. I remember it all, Cleveland Browns fans. And during the late 80s, we had that time, God bless Bernie Kosar, where he gave us a rest from all the disappointments. No, we didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but when Bernie Kosar had it rolling, man, he had it rolling. And we never lost because of Bernie Kosar. We may have lost because our defense decided to play prevent against John Elway. We may have lost because Ernest Biner couldn't hold on to the ball. But it wasn't because Bernie Kosar. We haven't had really a franchise guy since Bernie Kosar. That's how long it's been. It's been nothing but disappointment for the Cleveland Browns franchise. They are snake bit. No matter what they do, they can't get out of their way. It doesn't matter what type of superstar they bring in. The gold always seems to tarnish in some form or another. Remember when the city was engulfed with the excitement when we got Andre Rison from the Atlanta Falcons? At one time, he was one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. Did that pan out? How about OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr.? Man, I get so passionate about this Cleveland Browns topic that I just get tongue-tied sometimes, man. I'm so emotional and I'm so tired of the Cleveland Browns. They will suck out your soul, your football soul. You had Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel. You finally get to the point where you have a franchise guy in Baker Mayfield who leads you to the playoffs and wins a playoff game, and nobody wants him around. He wasn't good enough. You get the only quarterback that has led you anywhere, and you get rid of him. Then you bring in a guy like Joe Flacco to replace Deshaun Watson because he's injured, and then he leads you to the playoffs. And you don't even offer him a contract. But you come back with a guy in Deshaun Watson who's a shell of himself. Let's be real. So you've had two quarterbacks that can lead you to the promised land, and you chose to jettison them from the organization. What a joke. That is soul sucking. Especially in the last 20 years where you've done nothing. One of the most passionate fan bases around, Art Modell in the thick of the night, sells the team and moves it. Didn't sell the team, but moved the team to Baltimore. This franchise has done nothing but suck the life out of the passionate fans of Cleveland. So where I don't defend you cheering for someone that gets hurt, I understand. As a human being, sometimes you just have bad moments. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you look back in your life, there are moments that you wish you could take back. There are moments that you regret doing. Sometimes as human beings, we just have bad moments. The fans that were cheering that Deshaun Watson got hurt was a bad moment. And here's the thing that tickles me. You've got guys on the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett, who has the audacity to come out and try to chastise Cleveland Browns fans, where a few years ago you had a bad moment and you got suspended trying to swing your helmet to knock somebody's head off. And you're going to step up and talk to somebody about morals and ethics when you lost your cool and you had a bad moment? Now you're some expert? You're some expert on what people should be doing? Hell, booing and cheering ain't never hurt nobody, but trying to swing your helmet like a baseball bat and try to bust somebody upside the head, that could have been catastrophic if you would have connected. So who you talking to, Myles Garrett? Jameis Winston? The man that decided to take lobsters from a store, you gonna tell the Cleveland Browns fans about ethics and decorum? Jameis Winston, are you serious right now? You've got to be kidding me. Man, everybody has their bad moments, but I don't want to hear from them cats about anything. About anything. This fan base has been through the rigors with this franchise. And there doesn't seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just backwards. I don't think fans even know what they're looking at anymore. I don't think they know what success looks like. Around every corner, there is disappointment. You remember who had the #1 defense in the league last year? They waited until the playoffs to have their worst game. The one thing that the Cleveland Browns fans thought that they could count on was their defense last year, let them down in the playoff. Myles Garrett and the crew let them down in the playoffs. Man, I get the frustration of Cleveland Browns fans. I get the frustration. Sometimes you get so frustrated that you don't think right. And therein lies the behavior that we saw on Sunday when Deshaun Watson popped his Achilles tendon. And I'm not condoning it. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying that I understand there's a lot of frustration that is built up in the Cleveland Browns fan base. The ownership has let you down. The administration has let you down. The players have let you down for years. You would think that you would just have the opportunity to break through once. Man, I lived there. I rooted for that team. And then one day I just had to say, enough is enough. When they got rid of Baker, enough is enough. They bring in Joe Flacco to give you a second chance, just to have another couple of good years maybe. I know Joe Flacco is long in the tooth. He's not going to be around forever, but he just led you somewhere that you haven't been, gave you a good season. Now you come back with Deshaun, who hasn't done anything, and you're paying him over $200 million guaranteed, and you can't recoup any of that money. And now he's popped his Achilles tendon. You have no chance of moving him. He's going to sit at home and collect money and strap your organization for a few more years. It's frustrating, man. The Cleveland Browns organization will suck the life out of you if you let them. They will suck the life out of you. Now, what are you going to do now? What's on the horizon for the Cleveland Browns? The Lobster, Mr. Lobster, is going to lead the team. Isn't Jameis Winston the one that overruled his head coach last year in one of the last games of the season? The coach told him a certain play, called in a certain play, and Winston did what he wanted to do. Didn't listen to his coach. Is this the leader of men in that locker room that has something to say about the Cleveland Browns fans? Is that who your leader is now? Man, this organization is a shame. I hear people talking about their teams, the Giants and the New York Jets and all these organizations that feel like they've been losers for years. Hey, the Cleveland Browns the Cleveland Browns can teach you some lessons. You ain't seen nothing yet until you start researching and studying the Cleveland Browns. Man, that's one of the best fan bases in the world, in any sport, the fans of Cleveland. They've done nothing but been disappointed by the owners and the GMs and the players for years. The stories that we could tell. And yet they keep coming and selling out that stadium. And see, that's the problem. That's the problem. The Cleveland Browns fans continue to support this team religiously. They're showing up. And when you have a business that's based on profit and money, as long as you keep showing up, they're going to keep trolling out the same product. There won't be a sense of urgency to get any better. Kevin Stefanski had been playing Deshaun Watson for the past couple of weeks, and he's a good soldier. He's been towing the line. He's not going to throw his administration under the bus. He's been saying it's my decision. This hasn't been Kevin Stefanski's decision. He can't be that stupid. He sees what's going on out there with the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson not being able to move that offense. You think if he had a choice, he wouldn't have made a change? He's been told that he had to play Deshaun Watson. You can book that. You can book it. He's been told that he had to play that guy. So again, people that criticize the Cleveland Browns fans, man, again, it was a bad look. I'm not condoning it. But the majority of the people that I know that was doing the most criticizing, man, they just don't understand the history of that team and that city. The Cleveland Browns organization will suck the life out of your fandom. There's no more of a passionate fan base than the Cleveland Browns. There's no more of a loyal fan base than the Cleveland Browns. I used to be there. I used to fight in college when I moved from Ohio to Minnesota to attend the University of Minnesota. I used to have to go around and find sports bars that were showing the game on NFL Sunday Ticket just so I can watch the Browns game. That's how loyal of a fan that I was. I couldn't miss a Cleveland Browns game. But every year after year, letdown after letdown, no matter what the signing is, who they bring in as quarterback, who they bring in as coach, they can just never break through. So you just get to the point where you say enough is enough. And then when a situation happens, all of that frustration that just builds up just comes out in a bad moment. And that's what happened on Sunday with the Cleveland Browns fans. Man, there's just a lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration. Just look at the history of that organization and that franchise. It's poor. When are you going to get it together? Think about this. Look at the carousel, the turnstile of quarterbacks that the Cleveland Browns have had since they've been reinstated back in the league from when they moved to Baltimore. Look at the carousel of quarterbacks. And then you finally get two guys that lead you to the playoffs. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, they didn't get us to the Super Bowl. They didn't get us to the Super Bowl. But beggars can't be choosy. When you have umpteen losing seasons in a row, hell, the playoffs are pretty good. Let's just start there. And as soon as you get to the promised land, what do? You get rid of both quarterbacks. And you bring in a guy. Here's the catch. You bring in a guy with tons of baggage, civil lawsuits, sexual assault cases, and you couldn't just sign him. You had to put the cherry on top of the sundae and give him the biggest contract in NFL history, guaranteed. You couldn't just sign him. You had to put your fingerprints all on it and put the cherry on top of the sundae and sign him to a contract that you can't get out from under. Only the Cleveland Browns, would do that. Now, I know the Cleveland Browns give a lot of people joy on Sunday. You get to go out there and tailgate and go down to the stadium and watch them. And I know there's going to be some loyal Cleveland Browns fans that are going to hate this podcast because no matter what, They just love that team. But I got to speak up because enough is enough. I got to come to the defense of the Cleveland Browns fans. Again, one of the most passionate fan bases there is. And how does the organization repay that fan base year after year after year after year after year? Now, you know what's coming next. You know what's coming next. They can't get out from under that contract. So now they're about to fire sale their team. Oh, Cleveland Browns fans, you better get ready for Myles Garrett to be moved, Nick Chubb to be moved, Ward to be moved, Newsome to be moved. They're going to start to fire sale the whole team because they won't be able to afford anybody. And now, once again, they are going to hit the reset button. That's your reward for being a loyal Cleveland Browns fan. See, I had to turn my card in. It was just good for my mental health. I couldn't take it anymore. Enough is enough. When I came up to Minnesota in 1991, I fell in love with the Minnesota Vikings. I was going halftime with my Vikes and halftime with the Cleveland Browns. And now I have adopted the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm solely a Minnesota Vikings fan. And yet we may not have a Super Bowl under our belt either. But we don't go through the mental gymnastics that the Cleveland Browns put the Cleveland Browns fan base through every year. That's mental gymnastics. They can never get it done to one of the most loyal fan bases there is. And as soon as the fans have a bad moment, you got players speaking out against them. You got analysts speaking out against them. What have you ever done for the Cleveland Browns fan base? Ownership, players. Get it together. This is supposed to be your profession. Man, I just had to speak on it. Everybody was calling me, man, have you heard about the whole Deshaun Watson thing? And I try to stay away from the Cleveland Browns, man, because they give me a headache. I'm tired. I'm tired of them. It's been years. We haven't had a solid organization, I'm telling you, since Bernie Kosar. Everything is cursed. I mean, one of the winningest coaches of all time. Think about this. One of the winningest coaches of all time. He may go down as being the GOAT of coaching. Bill Belichick couldn't even win there. His worst stop was in Cleveland. You let that soak in for a few minutes. Unbelievable, man. I'm tired. I'm tired of the Browns. I'm tired of the Browns. I can't pay any attention. I wasn't even going to speak on this until people say, hey, man, what do you think about the Browns? So I had to jump on Unconventional Playbook and talk about it. This will be the last time I bring the Browns up on this station because I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. Cleveland Browns fan base, I wish you good luck with that organization. But there is no light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see any improvement coming in anytime too soon. And just when things may start to look up for you, please just know there's disappointment around the corner. Anybody that's any good that start to progress in the right direction, they probably going to ship them out of town like they did Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield. Tired of the Browns, man. Tired of them. This has been Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Big game tomorrow night. Minnesota Vikings versus the Rams. Hopefully my Vikes can get a W. We can move to 6-1. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Get the station to continue to grow over 19,000 subscribers. We appreciate the love and support. Latre, take us home.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know